Hello everybody and welcome back to Miss K Makeup. My name is Kaylee and today's video is going to be basically a beginner's how to do eyeshadow. How do I find the perfect eyeshadow palette and kind of things like that, the basics of how to apply eyeshadow, and I really just kind of zoomed through my face makeup. I did use all drugstore products in this video and I hope you guys really enjoy it. The palette that I'm using today is actually the e.l.f. Everyday Smoky palette. I feel like this is a perfect starter palette because it does have all the shades that you need, from a light bone shade to a very close to black. So I'm going to take this little e.l.f. palette and I'm going to start kind of giving you a baseline, letting you understand what the best way to go about it is. And when you look at any palette, whether it's this one or another one with completely different colors, you know, okay, this is the baseline that I should go about in applying eyeshadow. So first things first, cannot forget this. Also, I'm using affordable brushes. This is actually a brush collection that they have at Walmart right now. I wanted to use brushes where even people who are like, I don't even know what brushes to buy, you would be able to, literally you can go pick up these brushes right now at Walmart. They're only $20 and you get 10 brushes and you will have everything that you need, okay? So I'm going to start by setting the eyelids, or actually prepping the eyelids, my bad. And I'm going to use this flat brush. This is actually what we'll be using for foundation later and concealer, but I'm going to use it to apply concealer to the eyelids now. You see me looking down, I have a mirror in front of me. You already know. I'm just going to take, this is actually the e.l.f. 16-hour Camo Concealer, and I'm just applying a little bit to the eyelids. If I was going in with like foundation and all of that, obviously this concealer would have probably already been applied, but because I literally told you I was going to use that brush and then I used my fingers. Okay. I go in between, but I guess today I decided I was going to use my fingers. And I'm just going to tap that in so it's really nice and blended. Tap, 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 tap. And so the first thing you want to do, you can set your eyelids with powder, like a face powder, but you don't have to. You can set it with a light bone shade that you have. This one actually looks kind of orange, but it is actually quite light. You can tell, so it's actually the second shade. The first shade has shimmer. So you want a matte, like skin tone / bone shade. And you're just going to use that. The only reason that you would really need to use face powder is if your palette does not have a light bone shade, which hopefully every palette nowadays does, but not every single company believes that that's important, because of course you do have a ton of them, but I feel like I want everything I can get out of one palette, and that's one thing that I really want in a palette, so it's kind of what I had my eye out for. I did buy this palette specifically for this video, but these e.l.f., like, I believe these are, I don't even know how many pans. 10 pan eyeshadows are actually really, really nice. I have an all matte one, and I really, really like that one too. Okay, and so the next step is you've set your eyelids and now you need a transition shade, okay? So the one that I'm going to use is actually this shade right here. It's almost like a gray, but it's the lightest brown shade in this palette. You want right above, and you can really use a lot of different shades for this process. I wish that I could show you on a different palette what I would like pick as my transition shade. Some palettes have more than one transition shade, but you want basically one shade darker than what you've already used. You want it to be barely there because it's transitioning. It's just a light transition between the bone shade, and then you're going to go in with a deeper shade. I'm just going to use this. And you're applying this very lightly. You don't need like to really deepen this up. You can if that's what you're into, if that's what you like, but you don't have to, and I'm not particularly saying that you need to. So I'm just taking, also this is just kind of a domed, fluffy brush. This is actually a little bit smaller than what I would particularly use on myself, but I'm trying to use as many brushes of this kit as possible. So, of course, you will see me use plenty of other brushes in my other videos. Okay, so once I've got that to the desired intensity that I want, which is not very much, and it's usually not very pigmented as far as like the transition shades, that's when you're going to go in with your next shade. So I'm actually going to use this chocolatey brown because I want this to go a little bit more warm. You could use, there's actually a gray here that is also another option, and I might use that one, but I think I'm going to start with the chocolatey brown color. And I'm just going to apply that a little bit underneath. So you apply the transition quite wide and quite, you know, blown out, but you want this next shade to go a little bit lower in the crease, just a tad bit. And you're going to bring that all the way in. Now also, I did mention in my last video that with the second to third shade, I do actually bring it onto the lids a little bit and bring it in. It actually makes it a lot easier to deepen the outer corner, which is actually going to be our next step. So that's why I do that. And I just kind of buff in circular motions, or I kind of go at like an angle, but most of the time it's just buffing. It just depends. So I kind of take a buffing motion. I apologize if you can't see. I can't see myself doing it, but I'm also looking at like an angle, so you might be able to see more than I can. So I'm just keeping with that. These actually don't have shade names, but yeah, it's just that kind of chocolatey brown color that is matte. Now keep in mind, with all of our crease shades, you want to stay matte. Now later on, the more that you kind of develop that eyeshadow skill, this is especially for people who are like, I don't even know what eyeshadow to pick, what eyeshadow palette to pick. Like, I don't even know where to begin. This is for you because, you know, people who are more advanced, you can use shimmers in your crease if that's what you're into. Me personally, I prefer to keep it matte in the crease and then adding in shimmers on the lid or something like that. But it really just depends on you. Also, it's better to have a not as pigmented palette at first because it's easier to build up the product than to take it away. So that's a kind of rule of thumb. So next I'm still keeping with the same brush as long as I actually have a towel, and I'm just kind of like swirling it around so it's removing a little bit of that excess. Lastly, I'm going to take this dark, almost black, but it's not really that pigmented, so it's not really going to give you a super crazy eye look. But most people do steer away from black because it can be kind of intense. But this one specifically is not too bad. And you just kind of want to lightly tap into your palette. And do not forget to tap off your brush. Literally the most important thing. I mentioned that when I did my blush and my bronzer and all of that. So you just want to be sure to tap off your brush. That is the most important part. And I'm just deepening out. I'm really just like kind of buffing in circular motions. And then I am pulling it in a little bit because I want it to look seamless and I want it to blend into those other shades. So really the trick to eyeshadow is blend, blend, blend. When you think you're done blending, just blend a little bit more. And I want you to know that this is not, every single eyeshadow look does not always look like this. But I do want you to understand that this is a baseline. This is how it should kind of flow, and no matter what shades you're using, you should go from lightest to darkest in your eyeshadow routine. It's just easier that way so you don't get lost, and it also just makes it more seamless. You can go from darkest to lightest, but that's more of a smoky eye situation, which we will get into that another day. So next I'm taking this like flat brush. It's like pinched in on the sides, but it's kind of domed, and this is what we're going to use for the lids. So I'm actually going to take this lightest shade. You can use this one, is you just don't really want to use a very dark shade because it can kind of swallow the whole eye look. So I'm actually going to use this lightest shade, and I'll show you. It just brings a little bit of color and a little bit of life back to the eyelid. I'm actually just going to take my finger. So if you go too ham and it kind of goes where it's not supposed to, then you can just use your finger to kind of fix that. So I actually do that most of the time on where we've darkened that outer corner, and I cover the lid with a lighter shade. I will actually just tap my finger over it so it doesn't get lost. So that's pretty much all for the eyeshadow, unless you do your lower lash line. I will tell you how to do that, but not everyone does that. Most of the time I don't. I don't love the way that it looks sometimes, so I really just prefer to apply mascara. I do not personally use eyeliner. Some people do. If you do, then that is more of a progressive process. I feel like it's a lot easier, especially when you're beginning to just use eyeshadow. You can use eyeshadow to create a liner, but I don't feel like you have a deep enough shade in this specific palette. Maybe you could do that with another one. So I'm actually going to cheat. I, in this video, am using all drugstore products except for this one product, and I'm so sorry because I actually don't have a good drugstore mascara right now, so I'm using my Big Ego mascara from Tarte again. Without looking into a mirror. Okay, so I'm going to let that first coat kind of dry a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and go into the face. Okay, so now I'm going to take the e.l.f. palette again, and I'm going to go in and do my lower lash line since we have all our other face makeup on. And I'm going to take this like pencil brush. It's very tiny and pointed. And I'm actually going to kind of repeat the same thing that I did on the lids. So I'm going to start with the transition shade that we used. This is going to be difficult. And also be very careful. Make sure to tap off your brush because it's a lot easier for eyeshadow to get into your eyes. Your lower lash line. And I don't really do a ton. I barely even do it because I just want to give a little bit of definition to the bottom. So now I'm going to take the chocolatey brown. And I'm just kind of applying that to about the center, like about to the middle of the lashes. Not all the way over. Okay, and I'm actually not going to take the deepest shade. I feel like it'll kind of go a little bit crazy if I do that. So I'm going to apply some mascara to the bottom now. And I actually realized that I forgot to apply my second coat to the top, so my camera is gonna die. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and I also just realized that I'm like so far crooked. Great. Okay, so I'm going to use my Wet n Wild Natural Finish setting spray. This is actually my favorite setting spray, and I just bought a new one because I went through my other one very quickly. So. Okay, this stuff is so amazing. It always looks good. Always. Okay, and I'm going to do a really simple lip. I just want a little bit of something on my lips, obviously. So, I'm actually going to use this Believe Beauty Long Lasting Lip Liner in the shade Barely There, and this Wet n Wild Liquid Catsuit in the shade Zen Nudes. Okay guys, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe before you leave. I hope you have a great day and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.